and welcome to Splintered Scriptures podcast. My name is Wesley. I am the host and creator here. And if you are not familiar with Scripture podcast, I created this podcast as a focus to help people find the slivers of Scripture that created a whole bunch of different type of doctrine, and we're going through different doctrines, where they may have come from, what has caused them to come into different church faith traditions, how we should best interpret those doctrines, and how those are helpful in understanding what we believe, how we believe it, and how we can engage with other people who come from different traditions, different religious sections, and find common ground, or just engage in good dialect with each other. So today's is actually not necessarily a doctrine, but it is a tradition that has significantly impacted most of Western Christianity and everything. As we're looking at the wonderful beautiful doctrine or tradition of the wise men. I have my three little kings here, actually. So the tradition of the wise men being part of the creche. Now, how does the wise men fit into the nativity? Well, most people, it's kind of become a bit of a common knowledge. The wise men were never part of the actual nativity scene on Christmas. However, it is traditionally the capsule of the 12 days of Christmas that we celebrate here on the Feast of the Epiphany, which interestingly enough is from what most scholars have determined, and looking at different understandings and different writings from early church fathers, the first of the seven feasts of the church, the oldest traditionally held celebration. In fact, this is why the Orthodox churches will argue for a December 7th, the Theophany, December 6th, the being focused on Christmas and the Theophany of Christ coming, versus the traditional, what throughout most of the world recognizes on December 25th. Now, there's a whole debate as to how the Western Church and the Eastern Church each grasped their understanding of when Messiah was born, how to gauge Jesus' birth and everything. And that's a discussion for a whole nother topic. But today, I want to really focus on the wise men because it is Epiphany. In fact, if your church is one of the churches that actually celebrates, if you come from that mainline faith tradition, a Catholic faith tradition, it probably your church tomorrow, Sunday morning, will be doing Epiphany Sunday and celebrating it, because over time, since that celebration is stated on January 6th, and that can appear anytime on the calendar. It's traditionally moved to that next Sunday. So happy Eve of the Epiphany, everybody. So I want to look at the reading from Matthew's Gospel on the coming of the wise men, and then I want to kind of dig into, uh, why most nativity sets include them, how we should actually interpret that within Scripture and that tradition, and then following suit to some things that we can take with us as we either go to our church on Sunday and celebrate the coming Epiphany, or how we can go through Epiphany, the season of Epiphany, uh, as we prepare for Lent, and how we can take some of these teachings and some of the understanding here to our everyday life. So This scripture comes from Matthew chapter 2. This is Matthew's account of the birth of Christ, in which he says in Matthew 2, if you're curious, I am reading from N.T. Wright's The Kingdom New Testament. It's what I chose in this new year to go through in my personal studies and kind of get a different translation. I try to switch up the translations I'm reading each year to as I dig deeper into scripture. But before I drag you off topic, Matthew's account here, and the Magi visit Jesus. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, at the